Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Today's conversation is going to be great. And the reason why I know that is that Janice Tepley Wright, who's our speaker today, she's speaking now for the second time on the topic of foreign direct investment. And I can tell you the first one was fantastic. And so the second one is now filling in some of the holes that she had to because it was only an hour's worth of time. And now today we have about 50 minutes where she'll continue to share about the background and the history and the legality and the techniques to be able to do foreign direct investments successfully. She is an expert on the topic. She teaches it. She recently pulled together, and when I say recently, over the past months, pulled together a program with CRE credits that she presented locally. And when we saw what she had done, we thought we would offer this opportunity for Global Chamber members as well. And so this is an educational primer. It also, of course, as always here at Global Chamber, it's a connection point. It's connecting you with an extraordinary leader. Also, people in the audience are outstanding. And so one of those is Ellen Sue. Ellen is a commercial real estate leader in Vancouver, Canada. She's a member of Global Chamber. She is also instrumental in the Vancouver Global Chamber chapter, including leading an event where I got to meet David Hyun, who is in Los Angeles, but happened to be a keynote speaker at that event, that Global Chamber event last October in Vancouver. And I will have both of them introduce themselves here in a moment. But I was so enamored by both Ellen and David at the event, impressed by Ellen's ability to pull this large event together that included Ayman Alawadi, who's our executive director in the UAE, flew over and was another keynote speaker at this Sunday brunch event in downtown Vancouver. And David spoke later in the program, and he was so inspiring and so excited and exciting for me that I wasn't able to. It was very crowded, and I didn't get to meet him in the meeting itself. But as I was headed out to the curb, and he was taking a car, I think I was taking the train, and on my way to the train, there he was getting a car, and I introduced myself, and lo and behold, he, like me, is based in LA. And we've heard subsequently his story. You can't miss his story. He's got a great one too. Ellen, could you introduce yourself and give a preface to what we're going to be hearing about today?
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for your introduction. My name is Ellen Su. I'm the CEO for Prominent Real Estate Services and Promont Management based in Vancouver, Canada. I'm also involved in various different organizations globally. So I help and assist with a lot of global investors, both invest in the US and also invest in the North America and also invest in Canada. So basically, we're really excited today to have Janice with us today to go over the foreign direct investment. This is something that a lot of people wanted to learn about how to deal with foreign direct investment. And US and Canada has been one of the top foreign direct investment countries so far recently this year due to what's happening around the world. So we're really excited to hear that. And thank you, Doug, of course, for this platform for us to connect and we'll be having more programs that will be coming up to allow more local people to meet and also connect with each other and to facilitate more global investments across different countries. Thank you.
Thank you. David Hune, would you introduce yourself and say hi, and then we're going to transition over to Janice's presentation.
Well, don't forget about Will. I want to know where Will is.
That sounds good. David, do you go first?
Good morning, everybody worldwide. My name is David Hewlin in English. In Korean, it's said with a silent H like the Hispanic people do, Hyun. Uh, I am a person with a multidisciplinary background. I started in the field of architecture by going to the University of Southern California School of Architecture, getting a bachelor's degree. Under some incredible challenges, I was motivated to consider going to MIT, and I did succeed in going to MIT, graduating with a master's in architecture and planning.
David, just so that we can get to Janice and give her enough time,
Okay,
could you condense your introduction and do you
so
have,
finally,
especially around foreign direct investment?
to make a long story shorter, I am a CCIM like Ellen Sue. I believe in global investments. I believe in the program generated by Doug Brunke. And I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. Have a nice day.
David was part of our conversation last week when we had the first state of the U.S., Delaware, the smallest state, I think maybe the second smallest state, and the smallest country and the first country of Europe, Portugal, presenting. And so, to Ellen's point, every week we now have programming on different economic development and deal opportunities. And next week we're focused on Malaysia. So that's on June 10th. And so, David, thank you for your leadership. For those of the rest of you who are on the call, we're happy to have you introduce yourself at the end of the call. I'd like to make sure that we do have enough time for Janice. She's a real estate broker associate at Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty. She has a long history of success in Arizona, in Hawaii, and doing global real estate, both residential and commercial. She is an expert on foreign direct investment, and that's the topic of her presentation today. Janice, without further ado, thank you for your membership and your collaboration, for being part of the Global Chamber Phoenix Advisory Board, and we look forward to learning from you today.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here. And Mila, are you ready with the slides?
And
We'll start.
while
There
that's
we
being,
go. We're going to start with
there you go.
this slide. At the last presentation, we went through a series of the evolution of foreign direct investment and how the world has changed. I started in 1970 because that's when all the laws started enforcing in the United States about foreign direct investment. That's when most of them came into play. We talked about some of the definitions and how the world has become deeply interconnected. And so last time we went all the way up through the evolution until the time President Trump became president again in 2025. And this is what we're going to talk about today, is how things have changed just since President Trump took office again. So Mila, let's just go to the next slide. And so, excuse me, this reinforces how globalization and how the world is now so deeply interconnected, and how everything is on real time and it's 24/7 access to the world. And that's how things have changed dramatically. So next slide, please. So the question here is, have the laws under the Trump administration tightened or become more favorable to foreign investment? Does anyone have a comment on that? Well, this is really kind of a trick question because both things have happened. So let's go to the next slide. And these are going to be the new laws proposed in favor of foreign direct investment. Next slide, please. So you've all heard about the One Big Beautiful Bill. So this is a bill. This is not a law. It didn't go through legislation. But this was signed into office on July 4th of 2025. So basically, this is the center of domestic policy for restructuring of taxes, border security, spending, immigration, the ICE expansion, healthcare, defense, and energy policies. So since Trump took office again, we've seen many worldwide changes. And he has signed a record number of executive orders on immigration, energy, and trade, and added many new tariffs. So one source suggests that Trump's administration has implemented the broadest tariff changes in the world since the 1930s. And we know that these changes have caused much economic and diplomatic uncertainty at the federal level. We also know that the Supreme Court later ruled that some of Trump's tariffs exceeded his authority. And as a result, many of these tariffs were invalidated, and some companies have received refunds. And we also know, I know Ellen's in Canada, that this caused a lot of uncertainty with our allies and our international friends. So essentially, under the Trump administration, there's greater oversight. This is the biggest change that has occurred. More restrictions and more scrutiny, and the administration is especially targeting investment from countries that they have deemed to be security risks toward our country. So these security risks eliminated buying land near sensitive facilities such as military bases and increased restrictions with regard to defense, communication, transportation sectors, including semiconductors, AI, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and critical infrastructure. So the bill, what you're seeing on the screen right now is called the America First policy. So this was the restructuring of inbound US and outbound, which is something that hasn't changed for a while, to make investments into the US easier for our allies while making investment by adversaries. And they have called this out in some of the state laws also. China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia more difficult. So in the last class, we talked about treaties, that the United States has treaties with many of our allied countries, but we don't have treaties with these countries. So let's go to the next slide. So one of the pro arguments for foreign investment was the fast track for aliens to invest in the United States. And this was called a gold card visa program. I remember when this came out on the news, people were not happy about this because it is a program that expedited immigration for wealthy individuals, citizens, and people who could create jobs. And it was meant for high net worth individuals, entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, and people who have had a lot of wealth and high impact. So I went back and double checked on this, and there are very few people at this point who have taken advantage of this program. Next slide. Okay, most of the new proposed laws against foreign investment, well, one in particular is the National Farm Security Action Plan. And so this one targets and protects our farmland. And this has always been an argument in foreign direct investment, is whether foreign investors should be allowed to buy our farmland. So next one, please. Next slide. Okay, I want to mention this proposed restrictions against student visas. This is a big one for us here in Arizona because Arizona is the #1 public university in the United States for foreign students. I think the last time I looked, we had about 17,000 foreign students. So what this change would be, this wants to overhaul the whole student and exchange visa process, limiting international students to 4 years. And I laugh about that because I think most parents would love that too if their students graduate in 4 years. But after that time, students will have to apply for work visas or request an extension on their student visa. So under this proposal called the Occupational Practical Training, students can work related to their studies for a year after they graduate. So once again, you're seeing the tightening of the laws and the tightening of allowing people to stay longer in this country. Now, this one is most interesting that I'm about to mention. This is a brand new law that just took place last month, like last week. This is just happening now. It's indicating that many applicants who are already in the United States may be required to leave the country and complete the green card process through a U.S. consulate abroad rather than using the traditional adjustment of status process in the United States. So this could definitely affect people in Arizona, and we do have a lot of, or some people on green card, but this will affect employment-based applications, family-sponsored applicants, and some investor immigrants and temporary visa holders. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one transitions and to see what happens. Okay, next slide. So remember that we talked in the last class that each state, we have federal laws for foreign direct investment, but then each state in the United States also has their own laws. And so I thought this was important because since Trump became president, 30 states have passed laws with some additional restrictions of foreign ownership. And most of the states, including Arizona, or at least 30 of the states, have also introduced new legislation targeting China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Syria, and Venezuela now on some of these laws, not allowing some of these people to invest in the United States. So I just want to mention that in October of 2023, Arkansas is the first state in the United States to force a Chinese state-owned company to divest its American farmland. This is the first time I've ever heard that they actually made them sell their investment. So this was a Chinese-owned seed company, and they had to sell 160 acres of agriculture. And they were also fined because they failed to disclose their foreign ownership. So once again, tightening. So I also want to mention China here because we see where China invests here, and we have foreign Chinese students. So I just want to note here that China, as we know, there are strategic competitors and adversaries in some things like technology, military, and trade practices. But foreign nationals or students, people, investors, they can buy property. So they can buy a condo in Phoenix or Scottsdale, but they can't buy near, obviously, a military or strategic installation. So basically, the law is if it's threatening our national security, obviously they can't do it. But if someone is buying a condo or a house, and you're going to see this in some statistics I'm going to show a little bit later, that the Chinese are major investors in residential real estate. And we'll talk about that. So next slide, please. Can we have the next? There you go. Okay, so this is also a new restriction, and it's called COINS, the Comprehensive Outbound Investment for National Security Act. So this once again is restricting money that's flowing outside of the United States. And on this one, let me catch up with my notes here. So under this law, again, the countries are Hong Kong, Macau, Venezuela, China, Russia, Cuba, Iran, and North Korea. Okay, next slide, please.
Those restrictions, I'm sorry, or outbound restrictions.
Outbound restrictions for investment in those countries.
Oh, interesting.
So
For Americans.
for Americans taking the money out of the United States,
Got it.
they cannot invest in those countries, or they're restricting it and they're watching it very carefully. That's a new law that we haven't seen a lot of changes in outbound, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But this is another part of Trump's restrictions. So the next slide, stay on this one, Mila, excuse me. Go back to that last one. So the questions are, what country receives the most foreign direct investment? What country has the most outbound direct investment? And who are currently the major investors in the United States? So next slide, please. And the answer is the United States. They are the major outbound investors, and then we also have the most inbound investment coming in. So let's go to the next slide. Now this is an old chart. This one dates back to 2018, so this one is old, but I put it in here because I like the way that it looks, and I think it's interesting to note. You know, the United States is obviously dominant, and you know, you can see some of the other countries that are also have a lot of inbound investment. But let's go to the next slide and we'll get a little farther up to date on next slide, please. Okay, so these are the countries, the 20 countries by foreign direct investment. So this shows who is receiving the most foreign direct investment. Well, obviously, the answer is the United States. And then we have Singapore, Hong Kong, Brazil, and Canada. And I also want you to note here who the sources are. I try to be very careful about using correct sources so that if anyone ever has questions, you could go back and see where this data has come from. So this one, for example, is from the Organization for Economic Development. And so these statistics usually come out every year. So next slide. This is another slide, and this source is the World Development Indicators, once again showing the same results. It's the US, Singapore, Hong Kong, Brazil, Canada, and France. And next slide. Now this one shows direct investment positions 2023 and 2024, and this shows the outbound. So you can see on this chart on both directions how the United States dominates. Okay, next slide. Okay, this one, and this is a slide by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. And this shows how the direct inflows have changed over the years. So this one starts in 2013 and brings us up to 2023. So the obvious question here is why was there a surge in this in 2015 and 2016? So statistics are showing that this is when there were a lot of foreign investors taking over, buying companies. So they weren't bringing in new jobs and new development, but they were buying big companies like Kraft Heinz is the number one that was a big investment, and large pharmaceutical and chemical companies. And these were mergers with European and Canadian companies. So as I said, it wasn't exactly new development of companies, but it was mergers and takeovers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows the cumulative foreign direct investment in the US by country through 2024. So here you can see that Japan is number one. We talked about this last time, how the Japanese came in the 1980s and made major investments in the United States and in Hawaii in particular. Happened to be there at the time when all that was happening. And then obviously the Canadians are big investors in the United States and very big they're our dominant investor here in Arizona. Then you have Germany and the United Kingdom. So that again is information is from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And if you're really interested in all of this, you can look up the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and this breaks it down by the changes since 2019 to 2024 and the percent of change, and it shows you those same companies just in a different format. Okay, next slide. Okay, so is foreign investment in residential? Now we're going to switch from commercial and worldwide, and now we're going to start to talk about foreign investment in residential real estate in the United States. Is it increasing or is it decreasing? And which state in the United States receives the most income from foreign investment? And then which state in the US is the most restrictive against foreign investment? And I just want to make a little aside here, and I think we talked about this last time. When you see foreign direct investment, you're talking about commercial real estate, commercial investments. When you see residential real estate investment, you don't use the word direct because it's ownership by a single person and it's not ownership by a company or a corporation. Okay, next slide. So the answer to the question, is foreign direct investment in residential real estate increasing? And the answer is yes, it is increasing. So foreign investment in U.S. housing surges to 56 billion from April 2024 through March of 2025, and this is the highest growth since 2017. Now, the statistics we're going to look at now are from the National Association of Realtors, and this is the most accurate. These are the most accurate statistics that we have available on residential real estate. So next slide. So I just tossed this in because I think it's important. On the last class, we went through the current headlines starting in the 1970s, and then we went 80 to 2000 and all the way up to current. And I think this is an important slide because number one, we show that investment is increasing, but there was another headline about the New Zealand brothers. They snapped up $65 million worth of real estate um, of the plots from the wildfires in LA. And then also, people are always talking about farmland and who owns it. And so I put this one in, a little known fact about who owns millions of acres of American farmland, and it's the Canadians. And then followed by the Netherlands and Italy. And then the last current headline is foreign cash pours into LA luxury real estate as California billionaires flee proposed wealth tax. And I think this is important because this is also happening in Seattle. And if you look at what's happening in real estate in Arizona right now, there are very large investments happening here. We just had two residences last month, over $35 million. These are individual residential real estate purchases. And the other thing is that I think I don't have my statistic right in front of me, but I think as of March of this year, there were more $10 million sales, uh, above $10 million sales than there were all of last year in Arizona. So there's a lot of big money moving here because of these wealth taxes that they're putting in place in some of the other states. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is the most up-to-date chart from the National Association of Realtors showing home purchases by foreign buyers. And you can see how this has been changing, and then we're starting to increase in 2025, which I think we will also show more increase in 2026 and in the future years. So anyhow, this information is interesting. When I read this at first, I didn't understand why the NAR distinguish between non-residents and residents, but you'll see on this chart, the darker color, these are non-residents. So these are type A. They're in this chart, type A buyers. So these are people who are probably wealthy individuals. They're buying their second or third home here. Um, and then, so that indicates an investment in the United States. The type B resident is someone who's working in the United States and they hold a green card or a visa or they're a recent immigrant. So I questioned why they did that. And so according to NAR, so they made the distinguished between a non-resident versus a global capital versus domestic popular demand. So two different categories between someone living here and working here and someone who's just, investing in the United States. So let's go to the next slide. And so this reinforces the last slide. So in our conversation last time, we talked about aliens and why do they use the word alien when they talk about investors. So we have non-resident aliens. So this is a foreign person who does not have a green card. And then we have resident aliens, and those are the ones who are allowed to stay here and to work. And I just told you about the new law in May, so it's going to be interesting to see how this new law affects these resident aliens who have green cards. They might own real estate here, they have a green card, but now with this new law, it'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to just stay here or if they have to go back to their own country, as the new law suggests, and come back into the country. So we'll be watching that closely to see what happens with that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So these are the top countries of origin. This is still the same research that the National Association of Realtors put out in 2025. So this shows who were the top countries of origin buying real estate, residential real estate in the United States, with China being number one, Canada number two, Mexico, India, and the United Kingdom. And so I always have to go back to what's happening here in Arizona. We're seeing a lot of investment here. Well, Canada, those are our major investors here in the United States, the Canadians, with about 60% of the total. And then also, we're having a lot of Indian investors in Arizona. And we also have a very large population of Indian students at ASU. So I think what's happening, they're coming here to get educated, they're finding jobs, and they're able to stay. Okay, so next slide, please. Let me see here. Okay, foreign investment in individual states. I think next one. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're going to talk about, we have the map of the United States, and the next question is, where are these investors choosing in the United States? Next slide, please. So the answer to that is Florida. Florida gets most of the residential buyers coming to the United States, followed by California, Texas, New York, and for the first time, Arizona has hit this chart. And also notice that they're going to warm states, except for New York. They're going to warm climates. Okay, next slide, please. So let's look at why investors choose the United States. Next slide. So there's lots of reasons why they choose. They choose for diversity, immigration, innovation, legal protections, lower prices, market size, political stability, liberal investment policies overall, strategic location, and workforce. So one other thing I want to mention on this is most of these countries we have treaties with. And so these investors are safe, and they're safe to buy here because they're protected by the treaties. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I think this is interesting to note when we talk about the market size for investors. And we know that Japan, cumulatively, they are the largest investors in the United States. But think about this, is Japan, the country of Japan, is the same size basically as the state, our state of California. So just think about how vast our market is compared to theirs. Next slide, please. And I just tossed this one in because I find this most interesting. We're talking about lower prices. I happened to spend a fair amount of time in Monte Carlo, in Monaco, when I was studying real estate many, many years ago, 40 some years ago. But look at the price per square foot in Monaco, $5,800, which is so hard to believe. Then you have Hong Kong, New York, London, Geneva, and then we have Paradise Valley, Arizona, which is we consider very high price, $970 per square foot for residents. So for foreign investors, our prices are low compared to where some of them are coming from. I still don't know who bought those two $35 million houses in Arizona, but I'm certainly going to find out, and I'm interested to see if they are foreign buyers or if it was money coming from California or from Washington. Okay, next slide, please. So let's look at the pros and cons of foreign investment. So first of all, there are a lot of people who do not believe in foreign investment. I told you I taught a class last week where it was a 3-hour CE class, and I think we had about 40 people in the audience. And when asked, please raise your hand, are you pro foreign investment? Are you con foreign investment? And some people raised their hands and said, we're against foreign investment. We don't believe in that. Because in some countries we can't invest in their countries, but they can invest here. Well, I always use this as my argument pro foreign investment because the land is immovable. Foreigners can buy it, they can take title to it, but they can't take it. They can't move it. It's fixed and it's in place. So I always look at it as the foreign investor is the one taking the risk. Although I mentioned there are safeguards and laws and rules that they're protected. Okay, the next slide, please. So let's look at some of the benefits in the United States, the benefits toward our job creation. Well, I think in the state of Arizona now, because we are the #1 state in the United States for foreign direct investment, and it's creating a lot of jobs, and it's changing our infrastructure and bringing in jobs and a lot of development, and so things are starting to change here. So the benefit of foreign investment is job creation, higher wages, capital inflow, money coming in. And as I mentioned, we're expanding in Arizona. We're getting a new freeway and new businesses, new infrastructure, and also capital inflows into research and development. And so innovation and technology, stronger global ties, and lower borrowing costs, and it makes a difference with that. Okay, let's look at some of the risks and the downside. So profit outflows, investors can make their money here and take it back home, take it out of this country. Loss of domestic control. This is one that they always cite, but I don't believe that. I don't believe we lose domestic control from that. The biggest one now is national security concerns. And that's under the Trump administration, that's the one that they have really targeted and they're really focusing on. Another one that a lot of people argue that I'm not sure I agree with is real estate inflation. Now, in some areas, if you're competing against a foreign buyer and they have cash, that's no different than someone in the United States who also has cash. So some people think, and this is one of the arguments all the way back to the 1970s, well, if we let foreign investors come into the United States, they just increase our prices. But I don't really think that is one that I agree with. So next slide, please. So I want to end with this, and then we have a little time. I know there's another seminar after this. I still think we need to hear from a few people who are in the class today, but I always end my presentation. As Doug mentioned, this is sort of a 3-hour class that I usually teach, and it starts with the evolution of foreign investment, and then we talk about the things we've just talked about, and then we talk about Arizona. But I always end it with this, and this is something that Ronald Reagan used in his farewell address, and it talks about how you can live in France, but you can't become a Frenchman. You can live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you can't become a German, a Turk, or a Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come and live in America and become an American. And this is true, but as we're saying, since the Trump administration came in, it's getting more difficult. But it's still possible for people to come and live in America, enjoy the many things that our country has to offer. And so I'm going to close with that. It's 7:52, and so we still have some time to talk if anyone has any questions, or I think we still have a few people to introduce themselves. So can we open it up now, Mila
Uh, Absolutely.
and Doug?
So definitely David and Ellen and Will and anybody else in the room that's interested to either question or comment on what was presented today. Just really excellent information again, Janice. Really appreciate your expertise in this area. It's such a big topic. You've taken lots and lots of information and condensed it down to be very useful. Does anybody have any comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, David, please go ahead.
About when I entered the field of commercial real estate on May 1st, 2011, 15 years ago, uh, I noticed a lot of inbound traffic into the city of Arcadia of Chinese buyers buying very expensive homes in Arcadia between $3 to $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they would buy the homes is they became an automatic uh, uh, participant in the famous Arcadia public school system. They could, as long as you rented or own a home in Arcadia, you could send your children to some of the finest public schools for free, not the expensive tuition confronted if you were in their own home country. Then I decided to take elementary Chinese lessons, and I took some elementary Chinese classes for conversational ability, and the instructor was a lady, but the husband of the instructor, I asked him, I said, "Can you just explain to me why you came to America? Is there any difference other than you can own the land versus in China you can only own a leasehold?" And he was a very carefully explained to me he was a prominent government official, but the difference in China in the cultural ability to live a lifestyle of freedom was much more available in America. And so the value of number one, owning the land below your feet, unlike China, the government owns the property, and the ability to live in a culture that has laws. The Chinese respect the fact that in the United States, even if you're not a citizen, the laws protect have a broad base of protection. In China, he explained to me that is not necessarily the case. It can be quite different. I'm not going to go into the details because I think that has to be remain private, but I saw a huge difference of why a large, significant body of inbound traffic, it's not only from China, but from Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, they just love America.
And that's great. So we're running out of time. So Janice, would you like to comment on that, please?
Well, I just totally agree with what he says. And obviously, I saw that in Hawaii when I was living there. And we had so many Japanese big investors coming in. We also have that in Arizona now. And you're talking about the education system, and that's why we're having so many foreign students come to the United States because it gives them so much opportunity. So, I mean, we're seeing that here in Arizona, especially with the Indian population right now.
We
Uh,
we only have two
I,
minutes, so we
I
need to
do want
wrap
to make
up.
one quick 30-second comment.
Okay.
I'm a graduate of MIT. I was highly respected in China because of my MIT degree. The Chinese, you want us, their top managers, you know where they send them? They send them to Harvard, Stanford, UCLA, USC, etc. So believe it or not, foreign countries import students that have college degrees from our prestige universities, considered more prestigious than their own universities in Beijing and Singapore and etc. So foreign countries highly, highly value our educational system. That's what I wanted to say.
I'd like to just a short minute or less from Ellen, and then maybe a minute or less from you, Janice, in terms of a wrap up, and then we'll be able
Okay.
to close on time. Ellen, based on what you heard today, what would you like to say in conclusion?
Well, I have to say, Janice, you provide a lot of with us a lot of data and then a lot of things that we have confirmed that basically Canada and U.S. is work closely together, and a lot of foreign investments are coming to these countries, and of course, many Canadians are actually looking investing in the U.S. and I think vice versa too. I think lots of great information, and thank you so much for sharing with
Thank
us
you.
all the details. And then, of course, we look forward for you to coming on again and sharing with us, updates and what's happening because we know things are changing right now in the U.S. As you know, there's
Yeah.
more bills coming up and more things are coming up with the politics, with everything that's happening right now. So it is important. All of us needs to be updated, knowing what's happening, what's coming down the pipeline. So when we advise our clients, to invest in different areas, knowing what's the best advice and what is coming down the pipeline, so they know the pitfalls and also the advantages of investing in those, either the states or in those countries. Thank you so much, Janice. Really
Great.
appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank, thank you, Ellen. Janice, would you like to make a closing comment?
Well, I would just like to thank you all for being here today, and I appreciate it. I hope you learned a little something today. And Ellen is exactly right. Things are changing very quickly right now in the United States. And so I think it's important to watch the news and stay current on what's happening and, always have a lot of information to share with your clients and to keep them up to date on what's happening. And thank you, Doug. I appreciate being part of the Global Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a weekly call that we do that is the triangle of economic development, business, and real estate. We have every week for the next several weeks, we have a variety of different topics and experts that are part of the program. Next week will be a focus in on Malaysia and the opportunities there. So that's the 10th of June. Matrade and MIDA are part of that. And so hopefully you'll be able to join and learn more about the opportunities in Malaysia. This week we have actually in 3 hours, we have the Denver and Salt Lake City meetup. And then tomorrow, we have an artificial intelligence for manufacturing conversation from Europe that's going to be really fascinating. And then on Friday, we have our monthly foreign direct investment exporting and importing conversations, 7 a.m. Pacific time. We've got 5 speakers lined up already. It's going to be very entertaining because, as Janice mentioned and Ellen alluded to, the world is changing quite dramatically. David, you mentioned the same thing. Staying on top of it is as important as ever. Thank you, Janice, for helping us a little bit with that today.
Great. Thank you. Bye
Take,
bye.
take care, everybody. Thanks, Janice.
Mhm.